Hi, and welcome to the February 7th, 2022 Pros Commission meeting. The Pros Commission is conducting this meeting from the City Council chamber, and staff are complying with the current regulations of the California Department of Public Health and Cal OSHA for safe indoor meetings. To provide a live remote public comment, join the Zoom video conference meeting. The meeting ID is 871-5588-0850. And the passcode is 423484. Secretary Ballinger, can you please call the roll?
Yes. Commissioner Garland,
Here.
Commissioner Moran,
Here.
Commissioner Oler,
Here.
Vice Chair Kearsley,
Here.
and Chair Davenport.
Here. First, we have public communications. This portion of the meeting is reserved for comment on items not on the agenda. Under the Brown Act, the Commission cannot act on items raised during the public communications, but may respond briefly to statements made, questions posed, request clarification, or refer the item to staff. As some attendees may be participated in their first Pros Commission meeting or their first teleconference meeting, I want to welcome everyone and talk briefly about the public comment process. If you are remote, please use the raise hand feature or press *9 if you're connected by audio only, which will alert staff that you have a public comment you would like to provide. In-person comments will be taken first. Please wait your turn, and once brought into the meeting, state your name and city residence for the record. Consistent with city policies related to public comments, each speaker will have 2 minutes to make your remarks. The Zoom feed for each speaker will cut off automatically at 2 minutes. And I would like to invite anybody that would like to speak to start a line by, who's here in person, to start a line. There's public speaking cards. Please fill out a card. And we will start with the in-person public comments, and then we will move to the Zoom public comments. So please stand up if you'd like to make a public comment on any item that is not on the agenda. All right. Would you like to make a comment?
Go first. I have some handouts for the, and then this is just for all of them. It's just a little sample of our paint. Okay, good evening, Commissioners. I'm Chris Hunter a member and the past president of the Walnut Creek Pickleball Club. I'm also a USA Pickleball Ambassador for Walnut Creek and a PPR certified teaching pro. I would like the Pros Commissioners to contemplate making Red Deer Park Walnut Creek's pickleball park and think about converting the upper 3 very underused tennis courts to 8 to 10 more pickleball courts. The City and Walnut Creek Pickleball Club have built a very successful facility with 8 dedicated courts, mostly paid for by donations from our club members. Lifetime Tennis helped pay for the first 4 dedicated courts in 2015. The club paid for resurfacing the 4 courts in 2016, and then paid for the additional dedicated courts in 2018. The pickleball courts are in a small area of the park off Dapple Gray Lane. As you probably know, if you drive past this park on any given day, we are the busiest park in the mornings in Walnut Creek, and now the afternoons. We have anywhere from 60 to 80 players in the mornings and another 40 to 50 showing up in the afternoons during these cold winter months. As the weather improves, more players will be coming, then add the higher numbers in the evenings. If you check the 3 tennis courts out on any day at any time, you're lucky to see 2 to 4 players up there. These are the most underused tennis courts in Walnut Creek. I know Rossmore Pickleball's club, 500 plus members, have been unable to get courts, and many of their players come to Red Deer, as they always have. Some time ago, the city paid $160K for access to 4 of the 12 courts at Northgate High School. Larkey Park now has 4 newly resurfaced tennis courts with new nets and new windscreens. Both of these facilities have been used for tennis matches by Lifetime and other subcontractors for the city over the years for overflow tennis matches. They could do so again and not use the Red Deer courts part of the year, part of the day. Walnut Creek could have 16 to 18 pickleball courts in one park, which is important. Places like Willow Pass Park in Concord have 14, then stay very busy all day long with clinics, tournaments, touring pros coming in to give 3 to 4 day clinics, which brings in money and lodging to the city. Citrus Heights Pickleball Club has a memorandum of understanding with their city to run everything in the park, and the city makes money off all of the events they handle up there. This would be a great time to make this change in Walnut Creek, which was the first city in Northern California to have dedicated pickleball courts. There are 42 parking spaces by the upper tennis courts. There are restrooms there and more street parking on the park side, which would help keep cars away from the neighborhood. We have a lot of players and members of the Walnut Creek Pickleball Club that are willing to give money and to do fundraising for this, as we have done in the past. I'd just like you to consider the idea.
All right, thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Do we have any other members of the public wishing to comment on any item not on the agenda? Okay, do we have any Zoom speakers wanting to comment on any item not on the agenda?
Yes, we do. We have Barbara G. or BG.
Okay.
Sorry.
Hello, my name is Barbara Guinness. I've been a resident of Walnut Creek since 1996. I had comments today, particularly to Mr. Aller. I listened to the February and April 2021 Pros Commission meetings, and Mr. Aller expressed verbal comments and also had written comments stating his support for the bike community and its desire to build a high-speed mountain bike flow trail in Southwest Lime Ridge. And also in reading and listening to comments from members of the bike community, I've heard of their desire to provide support to build trails in the open space. They also express an interest in fundraising to pay for constructing new trails. So, Mr. All, with your close ties to the bike community and with the open space staff being short-staffed, please consider the following two items. You could encourage the bike community to volunteer their time, particularly on weekends, in educating the mountain bikers in Lime Ridge. They can discuss the importance of the mountain bikes, following the rules, and only traveling trails that are meant for them. Hearing the open space rules from one of their own would be very valuable and impactful. This would also alleviate the open space staff, as they're very busy blocking off the illegal trails and trying to clean up some of the destruction. A second thought would be to propose to the bike community that they invest the funds they eagerly express they want to raise for building new mountain bike trails as follows. Propose to them they could use their funds to lease, purchase some land of their own, and they could create as many trails, jumps, etc. as they please. They could police themselves and not have to follow rules or set up anything to keep other people safe on the trails that they're using. They would be totally accountable to themselves. So please consider these two items in your talks with the biking community. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Do we have any other Zoom callers?
We do. We have Gretchen Toffelmeyer.
Gretchen, are you able to make your comment?
You might be on mute.
Yes, hello, this is Gretchen Toffelmeyer. Actually, I wasn't prepared to speak. I thought I was just going to be viewing this meeting. So I was just here about the renaming of the park.
Yeah, this is not the point of the agenda for those comments. I'm sorry. We'll
Yes.
be considering those at the other, when
Yeah.
it's that point of the agenda.
Yeah, I didn't sign up to speak. Somebody called on me. Okay, thank you.
Great, thanks. Any other public comment for items not on the agenda?
At this time, I do not see anybody else that would like to speak for public comment.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda is the Aquatics Annual Report for 2021. Or is that just to accept the report?
Yeah, this is on the consent calendar.
Okay, so the
it's just if
consent,
there's-
do any of the commissioners have any questions about the Aquatics Annual Report for staff? No? Okay. Does any member of the public wish to provide public comment on the consent calendar item? Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to provide comment on the Aquatics Annual Report?
I do not see anybody. I want to clarify that there was a Barbara Pennington, but she has item 3, but I think that might be,
Right, I want an agenda item later on.
okay.
Okay, item 4. Okay. All right, so seeing no other public comments, Do we
Need a-
vote
We
on
need a
that?
motion and a
Okay,
second.
so is there a motion to approve the annual report for 2021 for the aquatics?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Secretary Ballinger, can you call for a vote?
Yes. Vice Chair Kearsley,
Yes.
Commissioner Oler,
Yes.
Commissioner Garland,
Yes.
Commissioner Moran,
Yes.
and Chair Davenport.
Yes. Approved.
The item carries.
Okay, now we have item 4 under consideration, the Lancaster Park to be renamed Remembrance Park. I invite staff to provide the staff presentation.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Mike Vickers, Public Works Manager for the City of Walnut Creek. And tonight I will be giving a presentation on the renaming of Lancaster Park. So I know all of you have seen a copy of the staff report and the attachments. There's attachment A and B I'm going to be referencing as I move through my staff report. And then I'm going to be, once I'm finished my report, we'll turn it back over to the chair for questions. When we complete questions, we're going to open up to public comment. I'm going to ask Glenn Wexler to come up, and he has several minutes that he wants to provide some comment, and he may be referring to attachment 3 that is at the back of the staff report. So quick overview of Lancaster Park. Lancaster Park is located on Lancaster Road, very near the intersection of Lilac and Lancaster. It's important to point out that, like all of our parks within the city, our parks get their name from the adjacent street. And obviously, this park is named after Lancaster Road. It's a very small park. It's our smallest space that we have in our park system. It's about 6,500 square feet. It was recently renovated through the community and staff back in 2020. Like most of our parks, our hours of operations are 30 minutes before dawn and closes 30 minutes after dusk. And this is a passive park. There's no recreation programming that takes place at this facility. And to give you a little better idea for those who aren't familiar with the park, it's about a half a block from Kaiser and about a full block from Los Lomas High School. So renovations. Back in 2019, staff had a plan to go out there and renovate the park as part of our work plan. As we were moving through the planning process, we had a number of community members reach out to us with the kind of the drive to help update the park and, more importantly, bring some features to the park that didn't currently exist. We sent them over our dedication program application, in which they completed. They recommended that we install 2 benches and an handicap accessible picnic table, along with some plaques to remember some recent loved ones that had passed. That application was accepted. We purchased the benches and the picnic table. The community funded the city for those items, and then we moved forward with the planning and the install of the renovation. As we started making improvements to the sidewalks to provide spaces for these amenities, the community reached back out to us again and said, hey, we noticed there's several things going on here in terms of irrigation and planting and ground cover. We also want to be a part of that. We want to volunteer our time. And we had 40 to 50 volunteers come out, put in a number of plants, spread over 50 yards of bark, and really help renovate the park. It was really a great process. You can see a number of the volunteers in the top right-hand slide there. So once that portion was complete, in the spring of last year, they reached back out again and asked if they could do a donor brick program, which provides more community members an opportunity to put bricks out in regards to loved ones and other and supporting other mental health related issues. And you can see that there in the top right-hand corner. The bottom left-hand corner is a really good example, if you've had an opportunity to go through the park. What you see out there day in and day out since these amenities were in place is balloons and candles and teddy bears and items to remember those that were lost and why these amenities were dedicated. It's no different with the donor bricks. Oftentimes you'll see candles and flowers resting on those as well. The park has become the usage of the park has definitely grown since these amenities have been put in place. There's a before picture. It was fairly overgrown, probably didn't get the maintenance it needed at the time. The bottom or the after picture is post the renovation. It looks a little sparse. It's because I took the picture this time of year. The plants do fill out in the spring and summer, so it does fill in. That brings us back to to why we're here tonight. There's a group of community members that are interested in renaming the park, which is being headed up by Glenn Wexler, who's going to speak here in a minute. Glenn reached out to the Parks Department, the Public Works Department, back in the fall of last year, 2021, and asked, hey, what's the process that we need to go down in regards to renaming the park? As I sent the dedication program to him a couple years ago, we sent the naming policy. We said, study the naming policy, get back in touch with us on why you think your request is in line with our naming policy, in which they did. And as I stated, you guys have the naming policy. I'm not going to go through all the details, but I did pull out a couple items, or a couple line items. Number 2, facilities. I'm just going to read these. Facilities will be named using, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble seeing here. Facilities will be named using labels reasonably connected. I'm going to start over because I'm having trouble seeing this. Facilities will be named using labels reasonably connected by the public with the location in question. In many cases, the practice helps the public locate the facility. For example, a piece of artwork or something along those lines. And the 4 items below that are adjacent street name. I shared that example with you earlier. Prominent physical features, primary use, activity, and historically significant features, name, use, or occupant. And as they responded back to the park's request to determine where their requests fit in line with our policy, it definitely, the staff did agree that it fits in line with item C, the primary use, which, as I mentioned, the park usage has grown since those amenities have gone in place. And then lastly, number 8, I'm not going to read it specifically because I'm having a hard time seeing it, but generally what number 8 says is that the Pros Commission has the authority over the policy to make this naming change. It does not need to go back to council for that. This body has the authority to make that naming change. And then lastly, financial impacts. I think I wrote in the staff report it's about $4,000 to $5,000 in financial impacts. That includes some new signage, and then some staff time on updating the website. And we won't update all of the flyers and handouts that we have today, but as time allows, we'll update those over time. So it's about a $4,000 to $5,000 impact there. Now I'm going to turn it back over to the chair for any questions that you may have.
Yeah. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Mr. Vickers? Okay, so we have no questions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, do you have a question? Okay. All right. Yes, we have one question.
Thank you, Mike, for the presentation. So regarding donor bricks and plaques and other things like that, is that maintained by the city? And if so, things like donor bricks, is there a maximum number? How does that work in terms of for people who have future interest in getting one of those?
Yeah, so I'll answer your second question first. In terms of the number of donor bricks, we've had some feedback from the community about wanting to expand that area to give more people an opportunity, and we'll approach that when it comes. There is no defined number, so to speak, in regards to donor bricks. In fact, we typically have areas, and we have a number of them, for example, over in front of Lesher, the new Lesher Plaza, Heather Farm Park, at the All Billy's Playground. We have some donor bricks that went in at Castle Rock Park that all went into specific areas where there was only so much room. It's a little different at Lancaster Park. There is more room to add additional bricks. And the city does maintain these facilities. It's clearly stated in the dedication program, that their amenities will be maintained by the city for 10 years. However, if there's vandalism and things along those lines, the donor is responsible potentially to replace some of those items.
So if your brick has been cracked or something and you want it improved or fixed, it would be the donor responsibility post 10 years?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, that's correct. I mean, if, for example, there was graffiti or something on those, the staff would go out there and clean those up. But if there was damage, the donor would be responsible to make the payment. I want to make clear, because I don't think I was. If, for example, the bench was broken, somebody ran into it or broke the legs off it or something along those lines, the donor is responsible to replace it even within that 10-year period. So the burden's not on the city is what I'm getting at, yeah.
Right, that makes sense. And I'm sorry, did you have, and the approximate $5,000 maintenance cost, what does that factor in? Again, just maintenance of the park in general?
No, so that was $5,000 in staff time to update. If we did move forward with the naming change, and we had to go back onto the website and update our flowers and go from Lancaster Park to Remembrance Park, if we have to, well, we would likely have to change the signage, those types of things. It's rough estimate is about $5,000.
And because we don't have any literature with the previous name in it, right? It would just be, like you said, website and signage on site and stuff.
Yeah. Yes, there are some pamphlets and handouts that we have that have the park name in it. It's clearly on the website. There is some sign. There's a regulation sign out there right now. There isn't a monument sign like we have at all of our other parks. We still plan on bringing a monument sign in there. That wouldn't be part of this cost. It would just be the actual replacement of those signs that are out there.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
Any other commissioners have a comment? Commissioner Garland?
Hi, Mike. Thanks for that presentation. I did have a question, and the name Remembrance and the concept behind the park seems to be related to mental health, I think I read. Is that accurate? Okay. Is there going to be explanation of the significance of being called Remembrance Park? What would I live in a different part of town from this. So what would I think when I read Remembrance? If I went to that park, will there be a kiosk that sort of explains what the concept is, or?
Plaques out there that share specifically comments regarding mental health awareness.
Oh, okay.
I haven't thought about a kiosk. That's not something the community and I have discussed. But it doesn't mean that we couldn't have some additional signage, sharing that information, sharing kind of the history and where we got to now. That's not a bad idea. It's a good idea.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
I just have one real quick. So I'm reading the, thank you, Mike, the dedication and amenities program. It's kind of like a menu in a way.
Yep.
Where's the park right now with, I saw there was a park bench there, but let's say, is there room for another park bench? Or like, where are we with the kind of amenities that have been built out? And is there any more room, I guess, is my question.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, if you were to ask me, the park is fairly well built out. It is really quite small. It's more of a pocket park, what we would describe as a pocket park. But I wouldn't put a cap on the amenities. There may be an opportunity. There's an opportunity for, not that anybody wants to dedicate a trash can or something along those lines, but there may be another amenity or two that could go out there. I mean, these aren't necessarily our parks. We kind of have guidelines around them. If the community came to us and said, hey, we have an idea, we want to put another bench in here, we would certainly go out there and meet with the community and have those conversations. So difficult for me right now to say, there's no more room for anything else out there, because that's not necessarily the case.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so now we will move on to public comment. If you're in person, again, I invite you to come fill out a speaker card and please introduce yourself and where you're from. As the beginning of your comment, everybody will have 2 minutes, and then after we do the in-person comments, we will move and see if there's any Zoom comments.
So I just wanted to mention that Mr. Wexler is representing the group as a whole, so he's allowed up to 5 minutes.
Okay,
Yep, thank you.
thank you. Mr. Wexler, whenever you're ready.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you, Mike. That was excellent. My name's Glenn Wexler. As Mike mentioned, I'm a Walnut Creek resident and have been for 38 years. I've lived on Lancaster Road for 27 years, and I can vouch for that this park was never used. Prior to the renovations in the spring of 2020, there were 3 little concrete stumps, nothing else. No one ever used it except for dogs used it. Yeah, sorry. I won't start over since I have a short time. So as Shakespeare asked, what's in a name, right? Why rename the park? And I think to appreciate why we need to rename it, you have to understand the concept of this park. And to best do that, you might ask what this park is not. This park has no basketball hoops, volleyball courts, tracks, pools. It doesn't even have any grass. This is a park with no grass. As Mike said, it's the smallest park in the city. I would venture to guess that probably all of you, but for your positions on this commission, and the fact that it's on the agenda, probably would have no idea this park existed, okay? So the park is now heavily used by the community members in this specific area. But that's, and we do have people from the surrounding areas, as in the letter I submitted, there were 200 names, and there's people from all over the place. So you first understand what the park is not to understand what it is. What it is, it's an area where people come in quiet reflection, really. They remember loved ones, they just sit and meditate, people come at lunch. It's a peaceful, pretty park now. The city has already partnered with the foundation. The plants are lovely, the benches, everything's really nice. And if you walk around the park, you'll see that the plaques dedicate people we've lost, primarily through mental illness issues. The bricks, there's approximately about 100 bricks already, and from my own personal experience, I think there's a lot more room, There's more room for bricks. There's a lot of bark all over the place. I think we could do more circles. Right now there's circles that are not full, but we could do more. So it's an area where people come, really, I know, like I have a brick from my father, right? It's not just mental illness or any particular person or foundation. It's a remembrance park, and probably the first of the kind in the city. And doing a little research, I realized a lot of other cities have similar type of parks. And I think the reason that we're here to change the name is so that the larger community, Walnut Creek and the surrounding, understands the concept here, and they can enjoy the concept here. I suspect when people see Lancaster Park, they have no clue where it is, number one, or what it is. So the name is very important, and that's why the name needs to be changed, so people get some idea. You know, you see Remembrance Park, and you think, what's that about? And you maybe read on the website or somewhere else. Okay, well, that's very interesting. I think I'll check it out. So it's open to everyone. It's not a select number of people who can put a brick in or donate a bench. It's whatever. I mean, I don't know if the city will have guidelines that people from outside of the city want to come in. That's beyond my venture. But I think that's the reason we need to rededicate it. It's a pretty little park now. It's much more heavily used than it ever was before. And the reason to name it is just to bring awareness to the city as a whole and maybe surrounding areas as to what this is and how people can participate in this. It's been very beneficial for everybody. And I think you'll probably hear from some other people how they've enjoyed the park. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Yeah, thank you for your comment.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Are there any other public comments on this item for people here? Yeah, and if you haven't already, please make sure you fill out a speaker card too. All right,
Ready?
Whenever you're ready.
All right. Hello, Commissioners. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Barbara Pennington, and I live about a 10-minute walk from the park, and I've lived there for 30 years. And I've watched that little space change. I love how it is now. In the early 90s, our neighbor Alice Schofield worked with the city to transform, it's an odd-shaped little piece of land there, and she worked with the city to transform it into a park. Thank you, Alice. And she used to go out and weed it. It was, as this gentleman said, it wasn't meticulously maintained, so we would weed and try to keep it looking good. We were very happy to have the park, but as Mr. Wexler said, it wasn't very comfortable. It had concrete pillars instead of seats, and there was minimal landscaping. And it's a place that you'd walk through, but you wouldn't stay, you wouldn't linger. It's very, very different today, and thanks to the city of Walnut Creek and the volunteers from the Miles Hall Foundation for that transformation. It's a comfortable place to sit, it's beautifully landscaped, and most important of all, it has personal reminders of our loved ones who are no longer with us, and it's a place to remember them and all the wonderful times we shared together. So I'd like you all to please consider naming this beautiful little park to reflect its use as a space to honor them. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. The next speaker would like to come up to the front. And please introduce yourself.
Good evening, Parks, Rec, and Open Space Commissioners. My name is Daniel Romer, and my wife and 20-something children are 25-year residents of Walnut Creek. First, I'd like to thank you for your important work of preserving and improving the parks and open spaces of this beautiful region, which I continue to enjoy every time I walk or cycle through our beloved green spaces and parks. These spaces are critical to the soul of our city because they enable us to rebalance and heal our lives, to recalibrate ourselves in relation to the natural and spiritual world, and to situate and remember our history in it. I urge you tonight to rename Lancaster Park to Remembrance Park because I believe doing so makes us aware of this important relationship between our physical spaces and our community. Identifying this space as Remembrance Park will first and foremost remind us that Miles Hall, Andrew King, and Aishu Horley were talented and beloved members of our community who left us too soon. It will remind us that the challenges that they and so many others in our families and communities faced and face, and the supports they deserve are within our means and are our responsibility to develop and provide. It will remind us to cherish all of our family and community members and all of their difference and complexity and the richness they bring to our lives, and to work fervently for their well-being and safety. Renaming the park will also foster the memory of the historic role of the community coming together in the aftermath of the loss of Miles, Andrew, and Aisha, and many others. In my quarter century of living in this town, the most impactful public event has been the way that the Hall and other families like the Wexlers, many from neighborhoods near Lancaster Street, working with Gigi Crowder and organizations like NAMI Contra Costa, have come together to lead a local, regional, and national mental health awareness movement that has brought lasting changes to the mental health response system and has heightened public awareness regarding mental health. Renaming the park will enable our community to earmark this considerable and life-saving moment and movement in a public space, and to memorialize the contributions and foster the spirit of those committed family members, friends, and advocates. Thank you for your consideration of this proposal.
Thank you for your comments. Whenever you're ready, just introduce yourself and give your comments.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Catherine Wally. I'm a resident of Walnut Creek who was born at the Kaiser just down the road from Lancaster Park. On a beautiful summer morning this past June, I had the privilege of gathering with members of this community at Lancaster Park to hold space with one another as we remembered those who are no longer with us, including some, such as Miles Hall, whose lives were cut short far too soon. Prior to this event, members of the community contributed of their time and resources to create a memorial in this park, each recognizing the importance of intentionally creating spaces that foster moments of being present in a world that often seems built to consistently pull us away from the present moment, to distract, to prioritize productivity, to push us away from opportunities to invite the memories of our loved ones into this present moment. Rather than weave the memories of those who have passed into the fabric of our lives, in this modern world, we are quite adept at cordoning them off in time and space. With this, we lose the opportunity to participate in the full richness of human experience and the peace that can come with remembrance. Intentionally building that time and that space for remembrance is best fostered through the support of community, with others purposely reminding us that this too is important, that this too has value, that we are not alone in experiencing the broad tapestry of emotions that come with the loss of those we hold dear, and that in these moments of being present, we can find the clarity of mind and the love for our fellow human beings that is so fundamental to the work of creating a more compassionate world. To some, simply changing the name of a park may appear trivial at first glance, but when we take a closer look, we recognize that it is a profound way of a community supporting us in the act of remembrance. Thank you so much for taking the time this evening to consider renaming Lancaster Park as Remembrance Park.
Thank you for your comments. Will the next speaker please approach?
Thank you. My name is Patty Mitchell. I'm a homeowner and a business owner in Walnut Creek. I didn't know about Lancaster Park before I heard about it through the Miles Hall Foundation. And I am here today to ask you to rename it Remembrance Park. I bought a brick there for my mother, who passed away about 2 years ago. She lived in Minnesota. She wasn't a Californian. But it's a way for me to bring her here to our home. I lost a brother-in-law about a year ago today to COVID-19, who was 62 years old. And again, he was in Minnesota, which is where I was born and raised. And I intend to buy another brick and put that here in Lancaster Park so that they can be in California with me and my family here. I didn't know about Lancaster Park. Took me a little while to even find it, even locating it as Lancaster Park. The name didn't really come up on Google Maps that much. And but since dedicating that brick to my mother and to those others, 100+ other folks who put bricks there in that memorial park, I had been there several times. And it is constantly active and full of life. So grief is a thing that we carry as those who are still alive, and that park is very much alive. So it's about remembrance, and it's about those of us who live in this community today who find that to be a very special and reflective place. So I think the name needs to mean something, and remembrance can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. And so I thank you for your consideration of renaming this park, and I ask you to vote to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. All right, next comment, Mayor Francois.
Good evening, Chair Davenport, members of the commission. Matt Francois. I'm here tonight, not in my official capacity as mayor or council member, but as a 22-year resident of Walnut Creek and as a longstanding member of the Park Mead community. I am in support of the renaming request. Lancaster Park was really unrecognizable before this great public-private partnership took hold and transformed the park into a very meaningful place. I believe the request is entirely consistent with the city's naming policy, as pointed out in the staff report. The primary use activity over the past 2 years since the park's really been transformed has been a sanctuary for neighborhood residents to remember and reflect on their loved ones. This is also personal for me. I knew 2 of the 3 young people whose names are on those benches. Miles Hall was my neighbor, and Aisha Horley was my daughter's best friend growing up. And I think what this is, in addition to the personal connection, the council has a priority of social wellness, and I think Remembrance Park is entirely consistent with that council policy and helps, I think, transform this park just from a passive park to a place where people are not only going to remember and reflect on their loved ones, but having hard conversations and trying to result in some positive change, which I think is starting and can continue to happen in this community. So thank you for your consideration of the request. Have a good evening.
Thank you for your comments. The next speaker.
Hello, My name is Veronica Benjamin. I'm coming to you as a neighbor. I live in Danville, California. I'm also coming here as a member of NAMI Contra Costa. And I'd just like to, as everyone else has said tonight, encourage the renaming of Lancaster Park as Remembrance Park, especially if there is a focus or an onus to better educate the community and just do the hard work of removing the stigma around mental illness and supporting those who are struggling. So especially NAMI Contra Costa would encourage all efforts in that regard. Also, as a community member in Danville, I have to say that we have Osage Park, and there we have many rose bushes, and I've actually gone there, and many of my neighbors, I don't have any family members there, but as a community member, it's a wonderful place to go and remember some of my neighbors who have passed on. So this is a great way to contribute to a community. I'd also just like to take this space to just lift up the wonderful work of the Miles Hall Foundation and the inspiring efforts. And I hope that the city and this council, or that this commission continues to support their efforts. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name's Christine Hunter, and one of the benches in the park is dedicated to my daughter. We lost her to suicide 2 years ago last week. And unfortunately, she's not the most recent young person our community has lost, or that even the local high school has lost. What this park has done, though, is it has brought our community together. It has allowed me to connect with other people that have lost members of our community. And it has started conversations about mental health and about ways that we can support each other. It has also become a place that her friends remember her, and they bring things to her bench, and they remember her birthday and other occasions throughout the year. Our family uses it for that as well. And I have talked with many other community members in that park, people that I would never know otherwise. And as they have been there remembering their family members. And with the bricks, we were able to open that up to the much wider community to allow other people to remember even beyond the original intent of recognizing the issues with mental health that are here in our community that people don't often think are present in a community like this. So I would like you to consider renaming this park so that people do recognize that this is a safe place to come, that this is a place to remember, to connect, and to support each other in our community. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Hello, everyone. I just want to thank you for the service that you guys do on this commission. My name is Ton Hall, and my son Miles Hall was shot and killed on June 2nd, 2019, while experiencing a mental health crisis. And, you know, community really came together when he was shot and came together and surrounded our family. But I would like to say that I think, you know, as far as like what Glenn was saying, Glenn Wexler, it's kind of his idea to kind of have a place that we could all remember our loved ones. And that's kind of how it started. And like Christine said, unfortunately, we lost her daughter as well. But it really is a place that, as a community, we can be one, and it is really important. And so I would really appreciate that you guys would consider renaming it Remembrance Park, as it is a place that all community members, even if they don't live here, can come and visit. When they do visit Walnut Creek, we have a lot of people who come from out of town and shop, but it's also a place now that people can go right around the corner and sit on the benches that the Miles Hall Foundation provided. And so I just, you know, want you guys to please consider renaming the park. My son loved to go by there, and we live right down the street from it as well. Just as Christine said, it's her community area as well. So thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Thank you for the comments. All right, Secretary Ballinger, do we have any people that would like to be comments on Zoom? Again, please use the raise hand feature or press *9 if you're connected by audio only if you would like to provide a public comment remotely. You will have 2 minutes to provide your comment.
We do. We have Vivian Mchenry.
All right. Vivian, your time will start whenever you start talking.
Can you hear us, Vivian? If we will, maybe we'll go to the next speaker and maybe Vivian can come back. We'll go to Laura.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I am a 30-year resident of the Parkmead area where the Lancaster Park is located. I'm also a part of the Miles Hall Foundation. The best part of life are the connections we form with loved ones. The hardest is the loss of them. There are not many spaces to be with our grief, which is intertwined with happiness and warmth, but making room for complex emotions is essential for our mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. At the dedication of Lancaster Park, hosted by the Hall family and the Miles Hall Foundation, person after person came forward to share their stories of their loved ones gone too soon, many having suffered with mental illnesses. Miles Hall, Andrew King, Aisha Horley, only a few of our community's beloveds are celebrated and remembered there, healing a bit of the trauma associated with their passings. At a time of isolation due to COVID and political strife, at that event, we had a chance to be together as a community and grieve collectively, and it was healing. I ask that you honor our community, our loved ones, and support a space named specifically for healing, comfort, and connection by renaming Lancaster Park Remembrance Park. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is Bailey Wexler.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Beautiful. Okay, cool. Thank you to the commission for hearing everyone today and to all of the speakers who have already shared. I want to uplift everything that everyone has already said. And also from my perspective, I'm a Walnut Creek resident. I've lived here for over 2 decades on Lancaster Road. And I personally knew Andrew, Aisha, and Miles. And I want to say that while the space of Lancaster Park before all of these horrendous losses that our community has faced was beautiful in its own way, now it's become something much more than another simple park to our community members. It is the place I go to more than any other in Walnut Creek when I'm looking for somewhere quiet or somewhere to reflect, because it has taken on a almost spiritual, sacred component because of all of the love you can feel in the space for those lost, and the importance it holds in our community, I think would be well reflected by renaming it Remembrance Park instead of Lancaster Park. I think it would honor those still with us and those we lost. And I would like to urge the commission to rename the park. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is Stephanie Taddeo.
I'm ready. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
First, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak. I am not a resident of Walnut Creek. I am a resident of a neighboring community, Danville. But I've heard about this, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak tonight and to say that I support renaming the park to Remembrance Park. I think it would be such a monumental gesture on the part of Walnut Creek to create a space where people can come and remember loved ones that have been lost. So I call in tonight as support of that as a resident of Danville and the county of Contra Costa. And I just want to also send my support for the Miles Hall Foundation and the work that they do to bring greater awareness of mental health issues and to create improved services and outreach. My hope is that Walnut Creek can be a model for other neighboring communities in the county. Again, thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is Cassandra Quinto Collins.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Cassandra Quinto Collins, and I'm here on behalf of myself and my family to voice my support for renaming Lancaster Park to Remembrance Park. I appreciate the Miles Hall Foundation and make this request with all of the important work they do for the community in mind. I believe Lancaster Park, hopefully soon Remembrance Park, will continue to grow as a beautiful place of remembrance of our loved ones. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is Gigi Crowder. Can you hear us? There we are.
Takes a moment to get on board. Thank you so much for having this on your agenda and advancing our efforts to acknowledge the fact that there's so many young people who are having a difficult time and we don't get to them fast enough. But this allows the family members to have a place of solace. I so much appreciate what Bailey mentioned because I just drove by the park and I had an opportunity to look over at it and it felt like a place of calm and rest. I was woken up this morning by one of your Walnut Creek residents who had a young person in crisis and I was headed to the gym, but I stopped because I realized, oh, I have to spring into action and get this person the support they need because we're losing so many young people. And Walnut Creek is the home birthplace of NAMI Contra Costa County, where I'm the executive director. So it seems fitting to me that this is where we would have probably one of our first parks in the nation dedicated to young people and their families to go and understand that we can do a much better job of meeting their needs, whether they're having a mental health emergency or whether they're contemplated in their own life. This park will stand out for many as a place where Walnut Creek took action. So I'm going to thank you in advance. I can't think of any reason why you all would not consider the pleas of the folks who've spoken before me. So I might not get a chance to see you again. I don't think I will need to. So I'm saying thank you in advance. And I really appreciate the new mayor of Walnut Creek for coming to the meeting and also voicing. I think we have opportunity at Walnut Creek to work with a new set of individuals that understand mental health and will do what they need to make sure those who live in Walnut Creek have reduced risk of adding any more names to the park. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is Vivian Mchenry.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yay. Okay, hopefully you can hear and see me okay. I think the headset worked better this time. So thank you, as Gigi said so eloquently, as she always does. You know, thank you in advance. There's something I texted earlier to a small group of friends, and I just said, you know, I just said declare this in advance, that it is already said and done in the name of goodness and everything good. And I got to tell you, and I know you guys, many of you maybe know this, but you know, in the months and years following the death of Miles Hall, it could oftentimes get very contentious between, you know, large groups, members of the large swaths of the community, and you know, the powers that be, for lack of a better word. You know, sometimes, unfortunately, tragedies like that can often get politicized, you know, when they really shouldn't be. And there were times, I'm going to admit, I really lost my faith in humanity a little bit. You know, it eats at your soul a little bit when you feel like people aren't unified to save lives and save protect vulnerable people. And I know that we are at our core. It's just we all have a different idea of going about it. But when we all came together in a large group of the community, not only in Walnut Creek, but surrounding areas and beyond, came together to put shovels in the ground in that park and put renewed life and hope and optimism and unity into that space. It was so restorative. I don't even know how to explain it. I remember talking that day, and Matt Francois and Kevin Wilk and many members of the community were there, and it was so encouraging and reassuring, and it was just beautiful. It was unifying. It was, as I said, it was restorative, and it, you know, it's just a beautiful place. I wish there was a picture that was a before picture that was displayed earlier. I wish we had an after, you know, before and after, so you could see the comparison in the way that it is now. But if you haven't been there, really, like everyone has said, I really encourage you to go see it for yourself. And don't just see it, just stay for a while, breathe in the air, sit down, look at the flowers, feel the energy that is there.
Thank you for your
bought
comment. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we have other speakers that would also like to give their presentation. Can we have the other speakers?
Our next speaker is Robert Collins.
Yes, good evening, commissioners. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak tonight and provide public comment. My name is Robert Collins, and I'm a neighbor in Berkeley, California. I live in Berkeley, California. But I just wanted to, again, thank you for considering renaming the park to Remembrance Park. I think it's a very apt name given what it has become and what the community has worked on for it to become a place to remember, a place of healing, a place of peace. And so I just, you know, it is not unique to these folks, but I think we want to remember Miles Hall, Andrew King, and Aisha Hurley. And, you know, I was brought to this by the good work the Miles Hall family and the Miles Hall Foundation has been doing. in promoting healing, really, and common sense reforms in Walnut Creek and other places. I also want to thank the work that NAMI has done. So I the presentation has been great tonight, and I think it just really shows what can happen when the community comes together to come up and work in a place that is a place of healing. I saw the before and after pictures, and I think they were very encouraging. And so I just, of course, urge you to vote yes on renaming the park to a very apt name. Thank you for your time tonight, and thank you for your work.
And thank you for your comments.
At this time, we have one hand raised still, but it's from Stephanie Tadeo, and she has spoken already, and I don't see any other hands raised. Oh, I think she just lowered her hand.
Okay, having concluded public comment, now we're going to open it up for commissioners to comment. Would any commissioners like to make a comment on this item? All right, Commissioner Kersley?
I'll go first. So when I first saw this proposal for consideration for us, I looked at it as I would any other proposal without knowing much about it. And I think my legal background kicked in first. It was to be detached, impartial, unemotional in terms of what this presented. And I think I failed at all those because I think I became partial, emotional, and completely attached to it. And I just think it's a wonderful, wonderful idea. And I think we're very fortunate that as a commission, we have the opportunity to do this.
All right, thank you. Other commissioners?
I'd just like to thank everybody that came down tonight and was on Zoom, and even if you're not, didn't contribute vocally tonight, but I'm sure there's many, many people behind the scenes that dedicated their time and their money and their efforts, and I wish we had more decisions like this to make as a commission. And it's nice to have some authority once in a while, Mr. Mayor. So I support this. I think this is a great idea, and once again, thank you for making a truly organic neighborhood movement, which we don't see that much these days, and we need to see more of. So I appreciate it, and thank you.
All right. Commissioner Oler, Commissioner Gunn? Okay, Commissioner Oler?
Yeah, just to add to all the positive comments that my fellow commissioners have been making, it is an honor to be able to vote on this tonight. And I have a prediction that it'll probably be unanimous. And I think that it is a role model, community engagement, and I thank everyone that's been part of that, whether it's planting, planning, advocating, getting people to join the effort. And I think it's a wonderful thing that I also feel would be great to see across all our parks and our open space. And so hopefully this, in this forum tonight, people might have tuned in and recognized the value of what's happening in the community. And that's something that we can take as a lesson to apply to other things that we do here in Walnut Creek. So thank you all.
Commissioner Garland?
Yeah, I also would like to thank everyone for coming, and I jotted down a few notes, and almost everyone used words like community and healing and, you know, contemplation and peace, and it was just great to hear. I mean, I'm very impressed that this came together the way it did. So I'm definitely in favor of the name change.
Thanks. And I'll just give my comments. This is my last meeting, and I'm happy that this is on the agenda for the last meeting. I wanted to thank everyone that came out and gave their own energy, time, money in making that park just a really special place. And all the people who came on to give comments tonight, because I think it just shows that somebody, I think was Vivian was saying, sometimes it's very disheartening right now. We feel very separated and divided. And this is just such a great testament to what could happen when people come together, make something beautiful that's not just pretty, but really just a place to connect and with each other and with our loved ones. And so, yeah, I'm very inspired by it. And I love the idea of calling it what it is, a Remembrance Park, and inviting more members of the community to participate in this effort as well. So I'm going to call for a vote, and this is going to be a really, nail biter. I don't know what the outcome's going to be. But if there is a motion to approve the renaming of Lancaster Park to Remembrance Park, and then someone to second the motion.
So moved.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Secretary Ballinger, can you call for the vote?
Vice Chair Kearsley,
Yes.
Commissioner Garland,
Yes.
Commissioner Moran,
Yes.
Commissioner Oler,
Yes.
and Chair Davenport.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
So the next item on the agenda is the pros commissioners reports. Do any of the commissioners have anything to report from their activities? Okay.
Thank you for coming.
All right. Thank you all for coming and giving your support and public comments.
Thank you all very much.
All right. Commissioner Kearsley.
Okay, being back to being detached, unemotional, analytical, and everything else. So I would like to take this opportunity, as it was mentioned earlier, that tonight is Chair Davenport's last commission meeting with us. And I just want to say a few comments regarding this. As you know, Chair Davenport has been involved in a number of activities during your time here. And I just want to name a few of those things. Of course, she was appointed to the commission back in March of 2013. Can you believe it's been that long? It's hard to believe it's been that much time. She served 2 terms with our commission. She has been chair of the commission twice. It's too bad today is not February 2nd, 2022, because there's a lot of twos here. She served twice as a liaison to the Walnut Creek Open Space Foundation. She also served on a park visioning committee with the focus on Arbolado Park. She had been on the community garden subcommittee. And what was your park, or your, do you remember that one? I'm curious.
To figure out a place for the community gardens that were ended up being
Right.
at Heather Farm.
That's right. That's right. She also served on the Citywide Trail Improvement Committee. She served on the Open Space Trail Committee. And she's volunteered for countless citywide events. I've seen you there, so I know that you've been part of that. It's been an honor to work with you and to have you on the commission. And on behalf of the city of Walnut Creek and its residents, I would like to present this plaque is for you.
Oh, thank
Black
you.
ribbon. I guess it's a good thing.
Day for
Well, thank you
You
all.
will be missed, and thank you so much for
Yes,
your service.
and-
I really appreciate it.
Well, it's been such a pleasure to serve on this commission and just be a part of this wonderful organization. And the more I learn about the city and just really the work that everyone is doing, I think it's just inspiring to know we have such great staff and council supporting us. And I think this, as just tonight shows, I think the real power comes when the community comes together with the city and we see what we could do synergistically that we just can't do alone as individuals or just as the city itself. So thank you for this opportunity to serve, and it's been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
So now,
I do want to say I want a picture at the end of the night.
yeah. And then we have any other pros commission reports? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Commissioner Garland?
Yes, so I just wanted to mention that I did attend the November and January Walnut Creek Open Space Foundation Board meetings, along with staff. And they're, one of their key issues that remains the flow trail. And I know they've already written comments at one point, and they're very interested in, continuing to follow this. And they still have some remaining concerns and some good ideas about education and things like that. So we'll be hearing from them more on that. And then another couple issues that came up were they appreciated the increased informational effort that the staff is making in terms of the new signs. Corey gave a little presentation, demonstrated some of the signs. So they were appreciative of that. And then they have noticed a proliferation of labyrinths in the open space, and they brought that up and just wondering if there's anything staff can do about that. And Corey had some good responses on that as well. Meaning it's very difficult to deal with them because they're low priority, even though they may have an impact. They're kind of low priority for their limited staff, and they're also so easy to rebuild if you move the rocks and whatever. So that was interesting, though, a new idea. And then their other major issues, the Seven Hills residential proposal, and the draft EIR is expected this month, and they're still very, very active and involved in that.
Well, thank you for sharing those updates. Any other staff? Any comments? I'm sorry, commissioners? All right, now we'll move over to staff reports.
Karen Heaston Martin.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Can you hear us, Karen? There you are.
Good morning, good evening, Commissioners. Chair Davenport. Just a quick update. This is Karen Houston Martin, Recreation Program Manager. I'm updating you on our tennis contractor lifetime activities. Beginning March 1st, 2020, they will be implementing a new fee structure, which is consistent with our fees and charges. So look for that come March 1st. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then I don't see any other hands raised for staff that is on Zoom, so the next presentation is from Mike Vickers.
Good evening once again. I had a number of items that I wanted to share with you, so thought it would be easier if I just put it in a quick presentation here. Help me flow through. There's been, let me see, I'm in charge here. So vandalism, if you've been watching the city council meetings, Councilmember Wilk has continually brought this to the public's attention. We've had a number of challenges over the past year to 18 months in regards to vandalism within the parks and open space. And graffiti has really gone up. We've also had a number of vehicles get onto our fields in our passive spaces, making tire ruts and spinning donuts. In fact, in one case, we had to shut down Ball Field 2, which has been shut down for a considerable amount of time now, waiting for those issues to heal, which has an impact on the other users, soccer clubs, and some of the other programs that the rec team puts out. You've probably heard that we had some visitors come in late in the evening and spin donuts in some of our intersections. It's the whole Public Works maintenance team that gets involved in cleaning those things up. So even though it's not in parks, we do actively get involved in other maintenance-related items. And we've had some vandalism out in the open space in regards to some of our vegetation and other trails being built. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. We have several deterrents that we've put out. We're now investing a little bit more in cameras. We've been adding some barriers to prevent people from getting onto the fields in some of our passive areas. We can't block everything off. Not only do we not have the funding, it just would really take away from the aesthetics of the program as a whole. So we're working closely with the police department. They're 100% supporting us and behind us to try and actively figure out who's creating some of these challenges, and so we can move forward. Next is the triangle. I think most of you remember back in the summertime we had a number of speakers, more youngsters that were reaching out There's an area just east of Akalani's, right adjacent to the, what trail is that? Barones to Mount Diablo Trail. There's a space there that's probably 3 or 4 acres, and some trails and jumps were built in that area. We've met with the community. They're willing to continue to work with the city. We put a stop to all the building of new amenities in that area. The kids are still using it. We've added some additional signage, and we have contracted with a trail expert to go out and evaluate the area. Once we get his evaluation, we'll determine what the next steps are at that point. But the community's been very open to working with us. They're more than happy to remove and build and do all that legwork at their own, not necessarily expense, but their own shovels and hard work. So we're still working through those challenges. The open space update, more specifically, this update is more around the potential multi-use trail in the southern part of Lime Ridge. We have received the environmental assessment, was returned to us by Nomad Ecology, and we're hoping to bring the next update at a future meeting as soon as April. If we can get there, we're still trying to figure out what the next steps are, and when we do bring it back, we plan on bringing some of the biologists to the meeting so that they can further explain the environmental assessment. It's about a 100-page assessment, so it'll be a little bit better to get a more of a 10, 15-minute summary on what's in the assessment. The riparian study at Heather Farm. This is a project, a capital project that this commission supported last year. Council funded it, and we just recently went under contract with some biologists to start the work. It's going to take several seasons to provide the results and the conceptual designs and some of their recommendations moving forward. So as we move through this process, I'll certainly keep the commission updated. And then lastly, we have Ranger Dan Bilin, who's been with us for 18 years, is retired at I think last Friday, or 2 Fridays ago, sorry. Dan served with us for 18. He was with the open space in San Diego for 15 to 20 years as well. Dan made a tremendous amount of improvements through the open space, whether it was through educational programs, socially, and through the environment. Dan and his wife were very strong supporters of the 4-H program that takes place up at Borges. His wife was an active volunteer for the length of time that Dan was here, and he's certainly going to be missed. It's great to see him move on to the next chapter. He was a very valued employee, and whoever comes in after him's got some big shoes to fill. We have started the recruiting process. That process closes this Friday, so if you're listening and you're interested in being a ranger in Walnut Creek, you can go on the city's website and fill out the application. It needs to be done by Friday at 5 o'clock. And then next slide, I'm going to turn over to Director Bellinger. Next 2 slides, Heather.
Thank you, Mike. I think we can go right to the next slide, if you will. I just wanted to provide the commission with an update on the Your Parks, Your Future. And I won't go too far back into history, but I think all of you remember that the mayor brought it up tonight, that the city council has a series of priorities for their work plan, and one of them is critical infrastructure. They made the determination that we would be implementing phase 1 of the Your Parks, Your Future planning. And implementing of phase 1 is the rebuild of the community center and the pool out at Heather Farm Park. And so we've been working to that end, reaching some milestones in, as the slide says here, in July 2021, City Council confirmed the study area, where we were going to focus on where the new pool and community center would be. So in other words, we didn't want to look at the whole park. We kind of narrowed it down, and it was kind of around actually where the existing community center and pool are, kind of by the cement pond. So that was decided by City Council. Then in October of 21, this project is very expensive, as you can probably gather. It's something like $50 million. But one of the things that they are looking at in addition is Is there a funding option out there? Would the community support either a bond measure or a sales tax measure? City Council had discussion on that and decided that they wanted to support a potential sales tax measure and directed staff to hire a polling company and an outreach company or consultant. And so that has been done. That was decided in 2021. And maybe some of you have been called. There's been some polling that's been going on in the community. And then in December of 21, staff came in front of City Council again and asked for a determination on where exactly the pool and the community center should be located. It was in front of pros prior to that. You all made some recommendations to us and gave us some good input that got included in the staff report. And then, like I said, in December of 21, City Council decided to recommend that the pool and the community center go back where the community center is today. So that was the determination. So staff is now taking that directive and doing some preliminary design work along those lines. And going back to the polling, if I could, next council meeting, which is February 15th, council will be hearing the results of the polling. So you might want to stay tuned for that or watch that council meeting. And then in spring also, and I'm not sure an exact meeting, but there'll be a follow-up with the Aquatics Foundation. Kevin Safine from our Arts and Recreation has been working with the Aquatics Foundation to determine if there's a potential and an agreement that we can come to for helping fund a 50-meter pool. So that will also be back in front of City Council at a subsequent meeting, and I don't know the date on that yet. So we're making progress. It's been good. Yeah. So I think that is it for our updates, right?
Okay, so with no further updates, this concludes the February 7th, 2022 Pros Commission meeting, and we're adjourned to April 4th, 2022 scheduled meeting.